Welcome to Rough Cut. I have a really cool project here for you guys that are budget-minded and creative. This is a 3D archery deer target that you can make at home. It is super cool. We're going to test it here on the channel, and I will show you with detailed instructions on how you can make this at home. So I'm going to go into detail about what I used to make this project right here. Some of the things you can find here are stuff that you have around your house. It keeps the budget pretty low, and they're very easy to use, something you can definitely do at home. So we'll start with this. This is one of the most important things. It's great stuff foam. It comes in a big can or a small can. I recommend getting the big. I use 3 of these. You're going to need this foam. I had spray paint. If you guys are hunters or outdoorsmen, you know the brand here. This is Rust-Oleum Camo. I used a dark, a white, and a tan or khaki. I used some tape, a couple knives, some cutting tools for the foam itself. This was also used for the cardboard. This is for cutting some of the materials you're going to need as well. Obviously a pen for drawing out your mold. Some hand protection is very important when you're using a knife. And this is for handling all the foam because you're going to destroy your gloves. So get a pair you don't really care about and definitely protect your hands against this stuff. It's pretty caustic. And cardboard, big. So this is actually what I used to make the mold. This is just an IKEA box. But if you find a box that has a good format where you can go from the hindquarters to the front of the deer, this would be best, and this is going to be the back side of the mold. So we'll get into detail about that in a minute. Put that aside. The key ingredients here, like I said, is the great stuff foam. So if you'll come in here with me, I'm just going to give you an idea of what I used inside of the deer. This is a finished hardened piece of foam that I used, and one of the reasons I chose this for the outside is it's almost self-healing. It's a really cool product. It creates a lot of friction. So this is a 100 grain tip with about a 5mm arrow Bloodline Easton. When it goes in, it creates a lot of friction, and to push through a good force, but that's a lot of friction. So it's a good base layer or front layer for the skin of the 3D target, similar to what you'll find on the real ones. On the inside, I actually used a laminate layer. This is geotextile. If you cannot find this stuff, which you should, it's usually laying around the house or at Home Depot. It's pretty cheap. This stuff is a weave, and it's generated and made for the purpose of stopping things going through it, like weeds and sticks. So when I tested this earlier, to put an arrow through this stuff is damn near impossible. It's very strong. I actually put a couple layers of this inside, and I used the scissors to cut it. If you can't find that, you can use carpet. This is just like a bath mat, but use the one that does not have the rubber backing, because what that'll do, when the arrow is flying through this, it'll create friction, actually transfer some of the rubber to your shaft of your arrow, and that's a pain in the butt. Next we have this 2-inch or 2.5-inch insulation. It's a Dow product, insulated foam. It's very tough, very rigid, and also creates a lot of friction when the arrow goes through it. But this is going to be centered or sandwiched inside of that mold. And that's it for the ingredients. So we're going to be testing this 3D target with my Matthews Z7 2012 bow, kind of middle of the road as far as speed. So I chose to use this one. It's got kind of mid-range accessories like sight and rest and stuff, but it'll work for inside. We're actually going to be shooting inside because it is freezing outside. It's -20, but we have a large space down here in the basement. I have roughly about 30 feet or more to shoot. That's plenty. I think we'll actually get the max speed out of that bow in that distance, and then we're going to take some scientific measurements about how this arrow is going to enter that, how far it's going to go through. So make your predictions. If you think it's going to stop it or not, here's the time, because we have not poked any holes in that deer yet. I'm going to be shooting a Easton Bloodline 340 spine with a 100 grain tip, blazer vanes, and a nocturnal knock on the back. And I would say about 30 feet, and then we'll give you some of the info on the science at the end. I got the box cut up and I got some borders put on it. You might not be able to see the whole shape, but obviously top shoulder, front leg, heart, liver, long liver. That's kind of the back, the angle up to the hindquarters, back leg, stomach. And I got about, I don't know, a 3-inch wall, and I kind of taped the spots where the box might have had any leakage from the foam being put in. But I got the curvature going around, and you can see that all the way around it's kind of supported up here on the top, just so the foam doesn't push the cardboard out. I used another piece that was straight up and down just to kind of go around the stomach. So that's about 1 can right there, and I just made sure when I'm going around, I'm doing the edge and then coming back inside. I filled it up. You can go in any pattern you want on the outside. It's going to be pretty uniform on the bottom, pretty flat when it adheres to. Just making sure to go back around the edges. Any holes you see, just fill them in. You have to remember that the stuff is reactive with the oxygen or the air. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that if you put too thick of a layer, the inside stays mushy and it actually doesn't expand as much as it should. So you're better just to use one full can, empty the can, let it sit, let this dry, let this expand as much as possible, and then use the next. On the textile here I have 5 layers. So the exterior layer of the closed cell foam has cured a little bit, so it's a little soft on the inside, but okay, it'll still expand just a touch. But I'm actually going to spray some new foam here as the layer that's going to adhere the geotextile to this, and it's actually going to spread in through some of the fibers, even though that's already kind of impregnated with the no nails. I'm going to make sure to keep it away from the edges because I want this foam to surround the geotextile. And then after I put those 8 or 10 or 12 layers of geotextile down, I'm going to put this, it's about 2 inches, and I'm going to layer that over the vital areas. So I'm not using so much of this stuff, and I'm using material that's actually a little bit better for the arrow. That doesn't really deteriorate super strong, and it'll make the deer look a little thicker and a little more fun to shoot at, less two-dimensional. I guess that's the idea, right? Vital's pretty well covered. The geotextile's kind of encompassed. I went around the corners again, filling in, and anything overflowing I'm going to shave off, but I need to get this blue dowel material really insulated well inside so there's no cracks or areas where the arrow can pass through with no friction. I gave a good amount of time for all this to firm up, getting firm, and that stuff is a great adhesive. So these blocks I put on the back just as filler, and also great arrow stop. These are now adhered to the back. I'm going to fill it with more foam and surround it and make the barrel or the chest of the deer nice and thick.
Full disclosure, I forgot to buy a 3rd can. I thought I was going to go through 2 and I need 3. The case being I want it to be more 3-dimensional and rounded. I don't want it to be like a 2D target. I want to hit some angles on this thing, some quartering away shots, maybe some down from a tree stand. It has to be thicker to be realistic, so I want it to go for that.
Just threw on the last coat here, and you can start to see the outline. All the foam is covered. It's roughly, I want to say maybe 8-9 inches thick, maybe more in some places. Front shoulder here, obviously this is the shot for the vitals, the lung and the liver back there. Back leg, and then when I sand all this down, you'll actually see the shape start to take form. So just a quick word of wisdom, just make sure you let the damn thing cure before you start cutting into it, or you're going to have hollow crevices and your knife is going to get sticky. So most of the foam has now gotten firm, so it's time to cut it up. I have 2 tools. I have the X-Acto razor, any sharp knife. You want it to be about this big, and you want it to be able to bend. So when you're going into the foam, you can actually push and make cuts, unique cuts that you can't do with a flat knife. Some of the bigger cuts, I use this. To go around the edges, I'll give you a look. So when I'm cutting around large corners and going in flat directions, I'm using this, and I have it propped up so I can get around the edges there, but just to give you a look. So I shaved them down pretty good. You can see the front shoulder a little better, the top of the neck, the barrel of the chest, and the hind leg here. I have some areas where I need to refill. When I cut into it, like I mentioned, I cut a little too early and it didn't fill in, so I'm going to refill that, and I think I'm going to add a tail to the back. A really important tip when you're spray painting the foam after you've taken all that dedicated time to carve that deer and make it look like you want. If you spray paint that too close to the foam, you're going to destroy it. And come in close, I want you to see this. So we have the 2 different types of foam that are actually inside of the deer. And when you're using any type of aerosol spray, if you're getting too close to the foam, it'll melt it. So I'll give you an example. Come on in real close. I want you to see what this does. And it'll actually start to erode the foam. You can see it eating away here and there. Go real close into the blue as well. You can see it slowly eating away. There's actually a way to prevent this. So if you're spraying your materials, what you want to be is at least 12 to 24 inches away, and you kind of let it rain down on the product. And in this manner, it'll dust it first and coat it, and then it'll protect it. So when you can make those closer shots to get different color and texture on the painting, that'll keep it from eroding. I have a good space set up for anti-ricochet. We've got a carpet here that'll stop with a pea-filled mattress behind it that my wife doesn't mind if I destroy. We have some cardboard here laminated just in case we get something of a low shot, which I don't anticipate. The deer is here. As you can see, there are no holes in it yet. So I said place your bets, do that before we shoot it. And we're going to put some arrows right here. We're going to test around the outside of the foam as well. We got the heart shot, the lung shot, and the liver back here. And we'll get to that soon. So we just took our first shot. I'm pretty happy with it. So let's see where the arrow ended up. So pulling it out wasn't too bad. We got 1 foot of penetration with this arrow. So it stopped it before it went a little over half through, a little less than half through. So pretty cool. So the second shot hit within an inch of the first and still was able to stop it. I had 11 inches on this arrow, second shot. So third shot, so we got 1, 2, 3. The other one was within a quarter of an inch. So we're getting good stoppage even though we're hitting the same area, which was one of my concerns in the beginning, so it's doing pretty well. I do notice a little bit of residue on the arrow, but it comes off immediately. There's no damage to the arrow. The arrow this time was 13. So I just want to wrap up with some conclusions here. I'm pretty happy with the overall result. It stops the arrows really well. The only issue I noticed was just a little bit of stuff on the arrow here. It flicks right off from the friction. I think the geotextile did a good job. I think the blue foam on the inside was a good friction layer for this. And the outside is definitely self-healing. I'm definitely happy with the fact that it's actually closing up after I shoot. Worst case, you shoot it 1,000 times, you put some more spray foam inside, and it actually rejuvenates the target itself. Pretty cool there. What I would change this time is maybe more layers of the geotextile or even the carpet material on the inside, which I showed you. Other than that, I think it's awesome. One feature I want to show you as well is this thing is completely packable. I'll bring it over here to show you. So the backside is flat, and I did that for a reason. You can see the arrow placements here that came through. Probably long shots, hearts here, but I wanted to make sure I hit the bulk. If I wanted to pack this into my tree stand and take a couple shots, quartering away, quartering to just above, hitting down towards the spine, this will allow me to do that. It's super lightweight. I would say this weighs less than 10 pounds, and that's really rare. So I could actually strap this to a backpack, leave it in the back of a 4x4 or a four-wheeler. So there's some really cool advantages to this, and it's semi-disposable. It was pretty cheap to make. It was just a small investment of time, and it was successful. So I would say, as far as price, less than $40. I mean, it really depends on what you have around the house. So if you have extra stuff and you're willing to substitute or use spray paint that you've already had, it can go even cheaper than that. But at max, I would say $40 in about 6 hours of your time. So pretty cool. So if you guys like this video and you want to share it with your friends, please do so. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification so when I come out with something like this again or something different, you guys are aware. And the next couple videos I have coming up, we're going to be doing some cooking. My wife loves that deer burger I'm making. We're probably going to do some red curried deer or something special. And we also have some other deer hunting videos where we might actually shoot a real deer. We got some bear hunting coming up, and we're going to be traveling to Hawaii in about a month, so stay tuned for the next videos to come.